So my mom calls me one day. She sounds a little concerned. She says, "Buvneet, I haven't gotten my period in 3 months. I don't know what's happening." You know when your life flashes before your eyes and you see this montage of your future? Yeah, it was like that, but in the absolute worst way possible, because it involved me being a middle child. So I asked her something I had never imagined asking my mom. "Mama, are we about to have an addition in this family?" And honestly, I regret asking because the uncertainty in her voice made me think about things I did not want to think about. So anyways, fast forward a couple months. I promise we circle back to this. Fast forward a couple months. My mom returns from her trip to India. And thankfully, there's no baby bump, thank God. But she does come back with bright red hair. And I mean, these are not just subtle highlights or balayage. I'm talking full-on fire truck engine red hair. And don't get me wrong, it looked great on her, but it was completely out of character. So when I asked why, she looked at me, and it was not a very maternal and nurturing stare. She looked at me a little cold and said, "Well, it just reflects how I feel right now." And she might as well have just been wearing a siren at that point, because message well received. I think all of us, it instilled a little bit of fear in my entire family. And ever since that red hair appeared, I don't know what it was, but if it didn't have to do with the red hair, she started glowing in a completely different way. I have never seen my mom more outspoken, more adventurous, more introspective, and also more angry than ever. And honestly, I'm happy for her. It's my dad that I'm worried about. I've never seen him more scared and fearful in my life. So eventually I connected the dots. I realized that everything my mom was going through was exactly what she was supposed to be going through. That this red hair phase was not really a phase, but part of a very natural process. It wasn't a midlife crisis or some impulsive decision. This was something real and profound, and it's called menopause. So for my friends that don't know, menopause is when your period stops. And this usually is a state that menstruators arrive at when their ovaries stop producing key female hormones like estrogen and progesterone. But it doesn't just happen overnight. There's this transitional phase called perimenopause. And during this time, hormones are fluctuating like a roller coaster, going up and down unpredictably. And this can cause symptoms like hot flashes, mood swings, anxiety, depression, the list goes on. But menopause and perimenopause are not just a list of symptoms, and that's not how I'm going to be defining it today. They're very individual, transformative, whole, unique, and extremely challenging experiences. Now you're probably wondering, why is this 22-year-old South Asian woman walking around talking about menopause? Well, firstly, my pronouns are she, her. My name is Buvneet, nice to meet you. And secondly, half of the global population, for half of their lives, will be going through menopause. I didn't even have to tell you I was a feminist. I just said my pronouns before my name, and somehow I missed out on this key detail. You know, it's kind of giving me flashbacks to the prequel titled, "You're going to be bleeding from the place that you usually pee, and that's normal. Welcome to womanhood." The unfortunate reality is that menopause is given disproportionately less attention in the medical world. No, seriously, like 30% of medical textbooks, only 30% of them actually go into depth about the topic. This means that the other 70% of medical textbook publishers are ending off their women's health units with, "and then she entered menopause. Period. Book closed. Published." No. But in all seriousness, even gynecologists, the doctors that should know the most about women's health, only receive 1 month of formal education in their 4-year training. And so this results of our healthcare providers not learning about menopause means that we're not talking about it enough. And this leads us to here we are today and why I'm talking in front of you. Because I'm here to show you that menopause isn't just the world's best kept secret. It's the world's next biggest opportunity. New research is showing that menopause isn't just a hormonal shift, it's a neurological upgrade. a complete reorganization of the brain that enhances problem-solving, leadership, decision-making skills. And so I ask you, what if we designed a workplace, communities, our societies that actually harness the power of these postmenopausal women instead of constantly sidelining them? For my business friends, this is your next startup idea. For the scientists in the room, this could be your next Nobel Prize. And for the menstruators in the room, well, I would go grab some popcorn because I heard the sequel gets so much better. A 2017 study tested women across ages 45 to 55 on their verbal memory task skills before, during, and after menopause. So this is a longitudinal study. They used the same group of women and tested them at different time points. So at the before menopause time point, they consistently outperformed men in these verbal memory tasks. No surprise there, obviously. During menopause, however, during perimenopause, their performance did dip. And this implies a cognitive decline. But here's the catch. Even at their lowest, they still outperformed men. And after menopause, the cognitive performance didn't just bounce back, it almost shot up, exceeding their premenopausal levels. And so this new neuroscience research is showing that the female brain actually undergoes a remodeling process during menopause. Since we've got so many estrogen receptors up here, the decline of estrogen leaves perimenopausal women feeling quite brain foggy and slow. I'm sure some of you in the audience have experienced that. I know my mom has. And so to compensate, our brains will ramp up blood flow and increase ATP or energy production up there. And so this mechanism doesn't just restore premenopausal cognitive abilities, but it actually builds completely new neural networks, specifically in the regions of the brain involved in memory, decision-making, leadership, and creativity. This is evidence that the female brain can adapt and evolve during menopause, coming back different but equally strong. It's kind of like a forest after a wildfire. It doesn't just recover, it comes back more lush, more diverse. It's an evolutionary mechanism happening right in front of our eyes. So my question is, why are we still acting like menopause is some sort of end to womanhood, when at a biological level, it clearly sounds like a rebirth? The answer is that society has convinced us that a woman's worth is inherently based in her fertility and youthfulness. And so when a woman reaches menopause, society acts like she's expired, like she's completely lost value. Handing the patriarchy a menopausal woman is something similar to handing a 5-year-old a plate of broccoli. You put old women and can't have babies in one sentence, and they're chucked across the room. But broccoli's good for you, and so are postmenopausal women. As of 2025, 1 billion people in our global population will be going through some form of menopause. I'm going to repeat that, 1 billion people. That makes up 25% of our Canadian workforce alone. Companies that support menopausal women through flexible policies, health benefits, and awareness initiatives aren't just being nice, they're being smart. These companies have reported enhanced organizational culture and increased retention of women in the workforce and improved strategic innovation. And intuitively, this does make sense because menopausal women are older, and with age comes experience and wisdom. So an organization that fails to recognize the value of menopausal women and doesn't support women leaves valuable potential untapped at the workplace. So investing in menopausal women isn't just a matter of equity and inclusion. It's a business strategy and a really smart one. This isn't a modern idea. Certain cultures have long understood the value of menopausal women. In indigenous cultures, women who enter menopause actually gain increased respect and authority in their communities. For example, the Mayan women of Guatemala actually welcome menopause because of the elevated status that it gives them in their community. In Japanese culture, the word for menopause literally translates to renewal of energy. Similarly, in Chinese, menopause translates to transition between middle to old age, which kind of shows the fact that it's a more shared and common experience. But the most interesting part to me was that not only are these women do these women just have more positive outlooks on menopause, but they also have reported having the least negative experience when it comes to it. And this kind of shows how the narrative around menopause that we create clearly impacts the way that we experience it. There's data-backed correlation showing that cultural narratives and symptom experiences are correlated. Mindset is truly medicine here, and that's the point that I want to drive home. I'm going to take a step back though, because let's be real, menopause is an extremely challenging and unique transformational experience, and it is not easy by any means. From the menopausal woman that I have spoken to, I've learned the way that this experience, while it is shared in a lot of ways, there's confusion, there's an endless rotating door of doctors still leaving you unanswered with questions. It's this sheer fear of feeling, what is going on with my body? I mean, imagine going through puberty and no one telling you anything and you feel completely alone in it. It's somewhat similar. Put simply, menopause is scary. But what I want to show is that it's not just scary. There's something so profoundly liberating about menopause. And I think this quote from the show called Fleabag, which if you haven't watched it, definitely go watch it, I think it sums it up really nicely. And then menopause comes, and it's the most wonderful thing in the world. And yes, your entire pelvic floor crumbles and you get hot and no one cares. But then you're free. You're no longer a slave, no longer a machine with parts. You're a person, and you're a person in business. And I think Fleabag was onto something here. Because in a world that places a woman's worth on her fertility and youthfulness, menopausal women are the ultimate rebels. They defy these standards by just their mere existence. Because when you reach menopause for the first time, you aren't held to that standard because you have no option. It's this whole new landscape for women to rebuild their relationship with themselves, outside of what we've been taught to know about ourselves. Menopausal women, and there's a lot of data showing this, menopausal women report feeling more creative, more decisive, more clear-headed. They describe menopause as being the biggest catalyst of change for their life, a turning point where they can finally prioritize their own goals after decades of multitasking for others. Research shows that creativity flourishes in postmenopausal women. So it's no surprise that we're seeing women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s launching new businesses, releasing new books, or reinventing themselves throughout these years. That post-40s glow that you saw in Jennifer Lopez was definitely real. There was something going on there. Menopause is not a disease, and it is definitely not some sort of evolutionary glitch. It's a biologically built-in time to focus on you. To all the menopausal women in the audience, you are so worthy, and I'm going to say that so many times. You are so worthy, and as a young woman, I mean this when I say that we value you. You spent years putting others first. Evolution is giving you a fresh start on purpose. It's a nudge for you to do all those things that you've been wanting to do, but you felt held back. You are not becoming irrelevant, you're evolving. You are not losing yourself, you're discovering a version of you that has been wanting to come out. When I say that menopausal women are some of the most, I'm talking about my professors, my family friends, my mom, they're some of the most full of life, but scariest women I've ever met. And I, for one, I'm actually really excited to experience this life transition called menopause. And I'd say that I'll come back and I'll let you know when that happens, but I'll probably dye my hair red too, so you'll just see it. Thank you so much.